Jesu Domine, dona eis requie. Jesu Domine, dona eis requie. Jesu Domine.
Namaste there, my happy little friends. It's really good to be back again today. Let's get this out of the way. Why am I being a dweeb? Because I found this chair. This chair is making me really happy right now. So this is Unthink Me. We talk about integral theory. My name's Adam. I hope that gets all that out of the way. We like to go, yeah, with my left hand, say how cool life is and how great it is to be here, and just give yourself a little moment to be happy about what's going on, even though maybe it's not a thing that you're happy about. Maybe it could be. Maybe this could be... it's a little spice if it's bad, and if it's good, then, milk it. There you go. Have that. What I wanted to talk to you, I was just kind of sitting here, and I was thinking, as you do, I was thinking, and I've been watching some debates, American debates, and I was thinking about what I would have to say about the concept of God.
Do you believe in God? Is there a God?
And so today, I hope to dig into the topic of God, and hopefully not estrange everyone. That's not the goal. I will say things that will be disagreeable to like every conceivable side. This is what I'm claiming is my deal there. Because if integral is like a new way of seeing things, then of course every way of seeing things is going to be like, I don't know. That's I have specific reasons why I'm not that way, right? That's just kind of how it is with levels. So we teach a 12-stage system of levels of consciousness. You will recognize them from all over the place, but this is a combined, merged model. It's not very straightforward, and so I've made tons and tons of videos about what levels are and how they work. But here we're just going to refer, in shorthand, level 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, as relating to individuals, beliefs, groups, civilization. And it does apply to all of those concepts. The best way to kind of start, I think, with this is to ask, not do you believe in God, but why do I believe in God? Why do we believe in God? And there's a lot of ways to tackle that. You could take a psychological approach. You could take a sort of civic or sociological approach. But I think an anthropological with a little bit of psychological is a good way to I think if you don't get that part of it, you need to be informed of it. It's a fact. And this is a fact that's a fact whether you believe in God or not. We have pretty good knowledge, both from religious sources and from non-religious, just regular old sources, historical sources, anthropology. We know that the concept kind of derives from stage 2 people, magical animistic peoples, who don't really have gods. They don't really do gods. They have spirits, what kind of regional, cultural spirits. They have names. And these things are not just beliefs. They're more like how everything is to these people. They actually, it's not like believing. It's like they directly know this to be true because they don't know any other way to know it's, how do you say this? They genuinely know this in the sense that this is the lore. This is what we know together. This is what the people say. I haven't really picked apart whether it's true or not. I haven't even really thought to. It's just people tell me things. That's as I repeat it back to you. That's what we do. Memes. And then around level 3, you have this move to a mythological view. So now you have sort of like these spirits sort of get concentrated into gods now. So then you do have gods. You have gods of all sorts of things. You have gods of people and the harvest. You have gods of planets, and they are gods. And you have regions are gods. You have concepts are gods. So there's all these different like gods, and the word is very like loosely defined in a lot of cases. Because there's a movement from spirits to gods, right? So there's a little bit of murkiness there. And so the gods of your level 3 red meme may be more like the Greek gods, where it's like a very specific group of dudes and chicks that they do very specific things, and we actually know their stories, as cultural mythology. Or you might have a kind of more loosey-goosey ones where they're like, well, we know the sun is like a big deal. That's a big god. And we know pain is like a good god, and death, So it's they can be a little more loosey-goosey. But that is the move into mythology. Now you have gods. But then a crazy thing happens, which didn't, you can talk about the Great Spirit or the God of gods, things like that, like did exist, the ultimate. I mean, obviously the mind will tend to do that. As we are an ego that's very easy for us to comprehend, like all of this is one thing. And so there must be, what if there's a God of everything? Since everything has a God, what if the God of all the gods? Yeah, okay, God of gods. There you go. That concept had no use to levels 1, 2, 3. There was no reason why you would need a God of God. It doesn't do anything for you. Every God kind of explains something. There was a reason why the mind created gods. So the God of gods now is doing the fully mythological thing. It's doing a really interesting thing. It's saying at that level, if you're at that level, and there isn't higher levels yet, in history, in people, you're at that level, and God is simply the matter of fact truth that you're seeing. That we're here, so we must have been created. I'm conscious, so that must have been given to me from something conscious. I have this innate tendency toward morality. It kind of hurts me when bad things happen, and I want other people to feel good and not be hurt, and I want justice, and I want everyone to be able to shine and be their best. And so where does goodness come from? Well, if I'm a positive person, let's hope beyond hope that this is the God of everything is also the God of goodness. Okay, so then what about everything else? There's badness, right? Is there? Did God make badness? Yes, as a matter of fact. One of the things within God is evil, the devil, supposedly, sometimes. The devil was one of the primary angels, let's say, one way of looking at it, who fell from God's grace to the fallen state, even sub-earthly state, fallen to the outer darkness where there's chains and brimstone and fire and gnashing of teeth, where you go if you sink beneath even the standards of humanity itself. Woo! That's a bad place to be, right? And so instead of that, you get into harmony with what this experience of reality wants. God, what God wants. You get in harmony. Okay, everything wants me to do this, and I'm lazy or stupid, or there's something wrong with me. I'm not confident enough. I can't do the thing that I know is the right thing to do. So I need the backing of the God of the universe. And I remember a moment ago, I decided that God is good. That was my decision. That wasn't, God's telling me that, but he could be lying. It's in my heart that I know that the God of the universe must be the God of goodness, because I'm a good guy, and that's my God, right? And there are so many unquestioned assumptions in this. But you saw a moment ago, I defined God as good, and now I've taken that and moved forward with it. So now I do a very dangerous thing, that I start to say, okay, so I believe in this God of the universe. I believe in this God of goodness. And I have things that go against that God within my heart. I have desires that seem like it's not in God's way. It's not what God would really want. It's more like what Adam wants. Okay, so I'm naughty. I'm sinful, right? I'm fallen. I'm fallen from God's grace. I'm sinking lower towards that hellish darkness down there. I start to do a very dangerous thing with that information, which goes, my ego tells God what God is, as opposed to God tells me what God is. And this is where I'm going to get salty with you guys. I don't know every single Christian in the world. And I know that Christians, people who self-identify, I'm a Christian of one sort or another, of any sort, they have a wide range of things that they agree with and disagree with and believe in and support, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, with different interpretations of different texts even sometimes, and additional texts sometimes, and alternative texts, et cetera, et cetera. And then you have also Christian scholars, people who are Christians, and they are looking very critically and historically at this. So I know all of these perspectives exist. And when I talk about the belief in God here, I'm talking about your level 4, the belief that many, 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 many Americans have. Not some weirdo that's really smart, but just like people who say, I believe in God. This is who I'm talking about. And I am generalizing. And there will be people who don't fit this mold, but that's not a counterpoint. A counterpoint would be, I know tons and tons of Christians from all over the country. I talk to them all the time. I listen to their radio shows. I watch it. They don't believe anything like what the heck you're talking about here. That would be a good counter argument. All right. So, but that's fine. That's great if you have that counter argument. That's fine. Let's talk about it. But my experience has been, I've been around the country. I've watched a lot of like conservative, Christian, all sorts of different things. I've had them in my family. I talk to people like this. I challenge their beliefs. I ask them questions. I've gone to churches. I've talked at various, denominations and churches. I've asked them very critically, very like, I'm serious about being one of you. Like, what is this all about? So I've done all this, and I find that I'm being really long-winded. I'm sorry. I find that, yeah, you can make very, very clear generalizations here. You can say, generally they are pro-life, and there are tons and tons of Christians who like aren't pro-life. But in general, you can say of the Christians that they're pro-life. Okay, so we will talk about that. We will talk about the abortion debate, and this is a trailer for that. I mean, I could go on and on and on about this. I'm so sorry about that. But today we're going to really try to stay focused on, is there a God? Does God exist? All right. So looking at anthropology, we see where the belief in God has arisen from. But then we see that, let's just say, for example, let's just take one particular thing that occurred. All right. So we had this tradition that starts at the beginning, the beginning of history of this people, the Hebrew people. So it is the beginning, but it's not the beginning of the physical universe, because that's irrelevant. The things that are relevant to us began when you had these things that are just like people, but they were like animals. They lived like animals. They were just naked and in the garden and everything. All right, now you know how this story goes. All right, so I'm not going to tell you the whole damn thing. But I want to be clear with you guys. I'm not like an expert on the Bible at all, but I have read it more. I've read it like several times. I've read it cover to cover like once. But I've read it several times in several places. I've started from the beginning several times. I've read the New Testament several times. There's a lot of it that you do skip on rereads, I would say. And there is a lot of value to focusing on particular sections more heavily. And I got the college Bible, with all the different interpretations and all the different spins that have been put on things historically. So I am a critical thinker looking at the Bible. That's it. And you should be too, no matter who you are, whether you're Christian or not. Like, why do you believe what you believe? Do Christians not believe that they should question that? What we know as scholars is that the Bible that comes to you now, no matter which one it is, which version, whatever, we know, I mean, you guys, we all know that this document wasn't written by God, wasn't written by Jesus. It was written by prophets and inspired folks who witnessed events that God, the positive spirit of the universe, directed into being this document. And if you think it was written like a book at a time, that is stupid. You're so wrong. It was oral traditions that got brought together by Hebrew scribes, and those floated around and morphed as different scribes translated them slightly differently. And then they all came together about 6 times. I'm talking Old Testament right now. About 6 times they got together, and an authoritative figure decided what the actual manuscript would be moving forward. And at each of these major revision periods, I don't remember for sure, I think there's like 4 or 6, something like that. Each of these revision periods, they completely, transformed the document for the purpose of the time. So the idea of updating the Christian or Hebrew or Judeo-Christian belief comes with the territory. As history has gone on in your tradition, we have updated everything about how we believe in God. One thing God didn't tell any of us in the Bible is, in the modern age, which denomination should I be in? It's kind of an important question, right? Because you could be a Lutheran or a Mormon or a Seventh-day Adventist or a Baptist or you could be all these other things, and you say, well, yeah, we all just believe in the Bible. Well, okay, then why aren't you all the same group? Because you've added a bunch of other stuff in your vanity and pride to the Bible. Because the Bible doesn't tell you which denomination to be in. We should assume that it would be Catholic, because the Bible was codified last time we checked by the Catholics. But then that's just the thing we call the Bible. We should actually just the Hebrew Scriptures. A lot of people didn't buy into the Roman Catholic Bible. And then all these other people just started saying, well, you know what? Times change. Those guys were wrong. And most of these, a great deal of these American Christians that I'm talking about are Protestants. So you've updated. You're not a traditionalist. You're not sticking with the Bible as codified by the Catholics. You've abandoned them and changed your teaching to something that's more appropriate. You've updated to a more level 5 thing than a level 4 thing. So it's just funny to me that some group of Lutherans, they think they're the folks who, I know what God is because it says in the Bible, and my particular group interprets it this way. Why can't I do that? Why does some guy get to do that in some building, in some clubhouse? Why do you guys get to amass this? It's a populist thing. It's like if enough people say so, it is so. So, all right, if I get enough douchebags on my side, I'll have my own sect of Christianity, or that's disgusting. It never said in the Bible to do any of this. That was what the Romans did. The Romans who killed Jesus, which was not a breach of the first commandment because it was a lawful murder. Because the Romans made the laws, and that's why I quit. Our cultural, our Judeo-Christian colonist white culture is just as much an expression of Christianity as it is an expression of the political autocracy which murdered our Savior Jesus. And that's in the story. That's an important part of the story. When Jesus holds up the coin. You know what I'm talking about? What am I talking about? All right. In broad strokes, that story, the good news, is that Jesus, the Christian Savior and Messiah, was not happy with the religious people, the Jews of his time, because they were corrupted by the temple and the temple's collusion with the Romans. So they're getting kickbacks from the government, the occupying government, and he doesn't like the temple of the Jews, the thing that's their religious thing, the temple. But your Savior didn't like the religious institutions of his time because they were colluding with an oppressive occupying Roman government. Our cultural tradition is all of those. It's more Roman than it is Hebrew. And not only do we not like them as Christians, we also don't like the government, the occupying government, the Caesar. Our life is about God and serving God, not about governing. And Jesus was very, very clear that he was not a political crusader. Very clear on that. They tried to set him up as one. And he said, no, that's not my deal. I'm a spiritual teacher. So Jesus, the great teacher, was killed by 3 things: his friends, his government, and his religious affiliation. And this is the story that you end up with as the greatest story ever told. Do you get that? Do you understand that? So these things, Christians, that are in your heart, that you know with your loving, caring, critical thinking heart, you see some hypocrisy going on. And you're being cowardly if you deny that or turn away from that. The real danger of level 4, we all know it. Even level 4 knows it. What you're telling us, what you broadcast, is that God tells me to do this. I pray for you because I believe in God. I know this because I'm a Christian. So as a Christian, those views need to be challenged by other Christians. You don't have the right to interpret the Bible in some way that's not consistent with the history of scholarship. You don't have the right to tell God what God thinks or to tell other people what God thinks unless God is actually talking to you. And if you say God is talking to you, you'd better not be lying about that or wrong about that. Because that's a big claim. That is blasphemy. That is the worst thing a Christian could do, would be to take their own egoic and political and personal motivations and ascribe them to God and go around broadcasting and enforcing your views as God's views. So this is why I don't consider myself one of those people, because I consider that blasphemy. I think critically about God because God endowed me with a mind that evolves and thinks critically. That is godly to do, and it is a vestige of our tradition that we're capable of that. The Hebrews, throughout history, have been known for critical thinking, abstract thinking, and analytical thinking. So it's no surprise that the cultural tradition created by those people in ancient times gave rise to the revolution of level 5, of rational, purely rational thinking. And to take one example, there was no commonplace theory of evolution. It was just understood that things were created. And then Darwin came along with a really, really compelling and scientific theory that eventually became a consensus in the field of science. And it is, to an open mind, considering the evidence, it is irrefutable. To an open heart, looking at God's reality, it is irrefutable. It is so clear, if you care enough about whether creation or evolution is true or not. If you care about that, you will look at the information and you will see that since life began, it has been, when looking at a large time scale, it has been continuously changing from this thing to that thing, and everything in the world comes from some very basic creatures that existed when life began. Now, did that just happen by random chance, or did the positive spirit of the universe cause it to happen? What would be the difference? If I'm an atheist, I live in a good place, it would seem, and it's super cool. It's a miracle. It's wonderful that life randomly popped up on a planet somewhere because I get to be it. Super cool as an atheist. As a Christian, God, the positive spirit of the universe, made life happen. What a swell dude. And to think I'm created in his image. Wonderful. We're saying the same thing, but one of them is mythological and one of them is rational. The Bible was written knowing levels of development. The Bible was written with some sort of proto-vision logic. It understood to code things in ways that would be compelling to scholars, that would be compelling to rulers, that would be compelling to the general public. They were considering every possible angle writing this, and they knew that people approach works of literature at various levels of depth. So some things needed to be exceedingly clear, and some things needed to just be kind of appealing to the times. This is why, if you're not a super, super orthodox Judeo-Christian, you generally will say there's some Old Testament laws and things we don't follow. It's kind of just, it was historical stuff that was needed at the time, but then we kind of moved past it. Easy to say that about certain things. But then we lock down on certain other things like, no, that's eternal, that's forever, that's immutable. Like the 10 Commandments, thou shalt not murder. Do you know, if you believe in this stuff, if you're into that, if you're a Christian, do you know what the word murder meant in its time? What the word that moved and translated up to us several times, when they wrote that commandment, do you know what the word meant that they used in the commandment? Because if you don't care about the 10 Commandments. So if you're a scholar of that tradition, you probably do know that it was referring specifically to manslaughter. It was not referring to acts of war, abortion, self-defense, mercy killing, suicide, and various other ways to unalive. Oh dear, I'm going to be demonetized. It was specifically referring to the thing you think about when you say the word kill or murder. It was referring to, I hate you, so I'm going to club you. Not lawfully. Unlawful taking of someone's life on purpose. That's what that commandment referred to, according to the people who wrote it. Now, if you want to come and reinterpret it, look what you're doing. You're updating. You're changing. So good. Continue doing it. And look into all the stuff that exists today that as knowledge, instead of rejecting it and choosing a like ancient and or medieval way of understanding this document. If you like the document, if you believe in it, look at it with your whole mind. Look at it with your whole heart. Read it knowing for sure that it is worth thinking critically about it, that it won't break the magic by actually questioning yourself. Do I know this is true? How do I know this is true? And finally, having gone from across time's arrow, as I like to say, now we can say, as a postmodernist, you guys, you Christians don't know what that word means, but it just means that you're in the present time in terms of how you think. You know that there's a lot of different lenses and perspectives from which people see the world. Literally, like that's like all that means. You are seeing the world through a lens. And with level 6, there comes a strong desire to call out hypocrisy. People who say one thing and think, feel, and do another. And so the level 6 Christian here can't be a Christian according to what people generally are referring to when they say that word. That's a shameful place to be, because you knew, like I said, of the literature of the levels 1, 2, 3, 4, that thing updates over time as the people who come from this, I don't care, but the people who are the chosen people of God, according to those ancient people, have updated the way that they see things, and you've chosen not to stay on board with them. You've chosen to turn away from them and to stick to the old idea, unlike the Judeo-Christians. My God, nobody's more guilty of this than Islam, because that's an update of it's yet another update that abandons everything the Hebrews stood for and said, yeah, we're those guys. That's our God. I should probably leave that out, actually. I should probably leave that out. I don't know. But if I'm keeping that one in, I'm keeping this in too. So we've been through time and we're at the present day. We're at level 7. Do you believe in God? Do you believe in right and wrong? Do you believe in heaven and hell? There are problems with the question. You, I, what is that? Believe. What does believe mean? God. What does God mean? Yes, I believe in God. But when I say that, it means something that I do not intend for it to mean. Because after all, I'm not God, and I don't have the authority to tell everyone what the Bible says or what's true, what God wants, and what's true and false according to God. I don't have any right to do that. I don't have any right to speak for any of these prophets or messiahs or anything like that. But weirdly, as just a son of any old man, I have the ability to be inspired by this at a very deep level and to think critically about it. Thinking critically about the Bible has been very transformative for me and very powerful. And I would encourage anyone who hasn't used the Bible this way before to do that. And also using prayer as personal therapy and a way to really connect with the divine, as opposed to asking for stuff and telling it what it thinks. Try listening. I don't know if you pray that way. I've seen a lot of people pray and talk about praying. Maybe you do it with your family, you do it a little different. I don't usually do it with my family. We don't usually do that. I've tried to do it a few times. It goes okay. They don't really get what I'm up to, unfortunately. So if you ask, so what is God? What is God? According to who? Is there an authority on that? Well, God's the authority. Okay, what does God say? Well, it's all in the Bible. Has God told you that? Or did a guy tell you that? I have a feeling a guy told you that. So who are you to tell me that that's like the fact because some guy told it to you? I thought you were saying God. You were saying God a minute ago said this. No. God gave us a mind. All right. I'm just riffing here, but God gave us a mind and gave us the ability to look at the history of the Bible and say, like, clearly the things that today's Christians are saying are not compatible with that tradition. They've changed it into something else, which might be fine. I don't know. But there is a lot of hypocrisy occurring. There's a lot of hypocrisy occurring. You all know it. As long as you're looking at someone else, you'll see it. There's a lot of hypocrisy going on. As I know that my friends who are Christians, who hang out with the Christians and are in those groups and stuff, they are irritated with other people's proselytizing and what are all the big words? Giving dang sermons and telling me what and petitionary prayer of a petty sort and telling people that God's going to punish them because they don't personally like them. Christians have this problem with Christians, as we do. It's a little clubhouse that goes to a literal untaxed clubhouse together. They can tell me I'm not a Christian, even though I've been updating with the tradition. And I'm telling you, they aren't Christians in the proper sense of the word. They just say they are and go and do stuff that's logically contradictory to the intended spirit of the text as known by scholars of it. These are narcissists and mobsters. These are not Christians. I don't care whether you think I'm a Christian or not, because, again, I believe in God has 3 main problems with it. Me, God, and believe. So what am I? Well, ask me, what am I? I am consciousness. What is God? Ask God. I'm experiencing consciousness in response to asking God. When we read the Old Testament, we see that God is seen as a consciousness that makes choices like people do and observes and reacts and not really wants things, but has a plan for things, has an arrow, a time arrow. And I'm saying, yes, that is how the universe works. But you're throwing all this extra baggage on it, calling it like a specific name and saying like you hold the keys to it in some way, even though you don't know anything. You're like you run a business. Great. Jesus ran a business. That's great. You're great. But like you're not like a PhD scholar, are you? In anything. So what do you know? Well, I know it because somebody told me and they're really smart. Are they? I don't know. Like, let's go. But are you interpreting them correctly if they are really smart? So we have like a fundamental problem here of Christianity becoming a mask that is worn by hypocrites. Most of the Christian bros that I know would see a guy like Jesus and say he's a hippie sissy. If they actually met that person in real life, they'd be like, what a weirdo. He's over there like sitting in the grass looking at the butterflies. Like, what a douchebag. Oh boy, Trump would sure hate that guy. Oh boy. So when you say this word God, that word God was taught to you by someone. And it wasn't taught to you by a linguist. It wasn't taught to you by someone who knows the etymology of that word and where it came from and how it's moved and shifted and morphed over time as people interpret it differently. You were told that by some guy in some town or some lady. I keep saying guy. I'm sorry about that. It's not intentional. I'm trying to be conversational here. Any old person told you that. A bunch of any old persons. And you have the audacity, using your free will, to choose what you believe. You're listening to those people. Shame on you. How very unchristian of you. A Christian doesn't believe in God. A Christian knows God. How do you like that? But finally, what are you really? What are you really? This is the levels thing. You are actually an evolving stack of levels. This universe is actually an evolving stack of levels. God is either that thing or the generator of that thing, and that's how I would understand God. That's what I would say God is, a level 7. But we don't have to call it God because we aren't beholden to some guy in some town. So we could just say spirit. We could say, yeah, it's the same. It's nirvana. It's heaven. It's all these things. It's grace, salvation, resurrection. It's a compass for how I know right from wrong. So I use that as a Christian instead of listening to people who don't get that about reality, who have mythological views about reality. They believe in God. They believe in God. You know what believing in God means? It means you don't know. You don't know. You haven't experienced enough to know for sure. God's never talked to you, but you want You want in your heart for it to be true. Well, if I said I believe in the Easter Bunny, well, you'd go, why do you believe in that? That's not a reasonable thing to believe. Oh, it's not. Why not? And you provide all this evidence, right? You provide all this. And then me as a free will critical thinker in the image of God, I would go, so what I'm saying is when the Easter Sunday rolls around, there are rabbits. I see kids running around collecting painted eggs. We all know about the big yellow, pink, whatever bunny goes around hiding them. What do you mean that's not real? What the heck do you mean God's not real? What do you mean he's not real? I know about him. Well, but when you said Easter Bunny, you were thinking about one magical thing that comes. I know what you were thinking when you said Easter Bunny. And I knew what you were thinking when you said God. You were talking about your ego. And if you're swinging that back at me, great. Then we're in perfect agreement here. Because we can only know God starting from the point where we're at now, which is ego. We have to move through vision logic and higher levels of understanding to actually comprehend what the heck we're talking about. In the meantime, we can believe. It's a very arrogant position to believe strongly, saying, I don't know, but I'm so certain of it, because if it's not true, I can't handle that. I'm mad about that. That's not cool. That's not my reality. It's not my reality. But if it's reality, then it's God's reality. If it's truth, then it's God's truth. You see. So you're rejecting and turning away from God if you're rejecting and turning away from scientific fact, or refusing to look at things that most people think is true, most reasonable, educated people think is true. Very, very unchristian of you. So I hope that kind of sorts out, is there a God? Do you believe in God? I hope that sorts that out pretty well. And I really genuinely am sorry if this is like intense or challenging for anybody, or if you hate me for what I've just said. Genuinely, I mean, I can be glib, obviously, but this comes from a very genuine place, and the things I'm saying are really actually true about me. I pray, I have faith in the goodness that goodness will win this game, actual goodness, not because I say so goodness, but because like it reduced suffering for human beings in general for over long time horizon. It aided in the developmental quest and increased the health of the spiral. Good. Made up word to us postmodernists. It's all pretend. But we're looking at outcomes. Do you believe the universe is a good guy? And do you believe that universe, which is a good guy, created you simply through its ordinary old operation, created you, making you, just because you're here and aware, you're a good guy, unless you hide and turn away from truth and God. You're already a good guy. You're born with original godness as well as original sin. You have a tendency to turn away. Well, that's because it's cold and I want to put on a jacket. That's natural. I don't like people telling me I'm wrong. I don't like to change my mind. I don't like to turn back and walk around with my tail between my legs because I used to think one thing, now I think another thing. I don't want to have to explain this to people who are still stuck in my old beliefs. Geez, I don't even know how to handle that. Honestly and truly, that's a real problem in my life. But I believe in that, in the sense that I hope that it is the case, and I'm going to behave as though it is the case. The universe is good, and I'm good, and I'm trying to be good, and the universe is trying to be good. We're all trying to behave ourselves. Every single creature in the world is just a cute, adorable little thing, just trying to stay warm, trying to get laid, trying to not die, eventually succumbing to that fate and going to heaven. What a awesome deal for everyone. Oh, there's some bad stuff, but it is what is. Is it cool or isn't it? You're the one that says so. And we all go around telling each other God says it's good. We have faith in that. We want to believe that. Cool. That sounds like a really positive thing to believe, and not to cram down other people's throat if they believe something different. Not to imprison people. Okay, to sign off this video, I have read some things which might not be true, but that atheists may soon be in many ways legally equated to terrorists. I don't know. Maybe eventually I could see that. So, here's my stand, my Jimmy Kimmel. Like, I'm going to keep talking about like transgender and atheism just because I believe in God and I'm a good Christian. And I think that we should update and evolve to whatever truth, beauty, and justice is. And that is godly, and that is what having faith means. And we can all stand together on that once we pull our heads out of a dark place where we use force instead of reason and example. Example. Who is your leader? Who is your leader? What's your country? Do you know what your country is? They know not what they do. God, it's as old as time, isn't it? But anyways, yeah, this will probably get shadow banned, or maybe it'll be radically escalated. And maybe they'll come and tranquilize me. Maybe they'll come and put a bug in me or something. I don't know. If that happens, come what may, I decided a while back that I'm already dead. And there's nothing, I'm not embarrassed or anything. And whatever's going to happen, that's just the way the cookie crumbles. And I really believe in fighting for that. Because if you don't get to be a reasonable person, and if you don't get to be a moral person, then life isn't really worth living, in my opinion. What I get out of life is that I get to choose what my life is. And I get to choose how to respond to the reality that is presented to me. That's the appeal of it. That I choose to respond to this reality with as much love and the willingness to sacrifice for that love that I can possibly muster at any moment. And I just hope that if we can all come together on that, I hope it'll be enough. I gotta hold my little dipshit mic, but say, I don't have to do a stupid prayer thing. Just to say, these are, these recordings are a really special time for me, and it really means a lot that you're here, whoever you are, 10, 100, 200 people, whatever, that you're here experiencing this really precious and deep moment with me. In my opinion, I really love this. I really love doing this. It's like my favorite thing to do ever. And you can't imagine how afraid I am to share myself with you, with anyone at this point. But this is me sharing myself with you. The Unthink Me show, that's what it is. So I really appreciate, so I mean from the bottom of my heart, whether you are completely incensed by the things I'm saying, or whether they're like, well, duh, or whether you thought this was like a good show or whatever and passed the time at work, I am so appreciative of you doing this with me for whatever stupid reason you have and whatever stupid reason I have for doing it. So dang grateful. So have a wolfy and wonderful October. Yeah! Just throw in this bit I just remembered. And of course, the word real. 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 What does real mean? What the heck does real? Is God real? Everything can be real and nothing can be real. Philosophers know this. The word real is so dang meaningless. A dream is real. No, it's not. A rock is real. What makes it real? Who are you to say it's real or not? What if the tree falls in the forest and nobody's there? Is the tree real? Was the tree paying attention to that? Oh, yeah. So real is like a meaningless word, but we can say like, there are things that people think are real in a certain way. Aha. Real in what way? You think a thing is real in a certain way, then it can be proven or disproven. But real all by itself only means everything you can possibly imagine, and everything you are imagining, everything you're experiencing, everything that anyone has ever experienced, that's all real. Even things that nobody's experienced, nothing has experienced, that's probably real too. Who knows? But to reduce God to this real thing, this is it real or not? We're really just saying, is God a cultural myth, Or is God a factual entity? Well, great. It is used as both, right? So you need to then define God. Uh-huh. Oh boy, isn't that tough? Just to say God is real, you have to do all this work. To not be blaspheming, to not be an idolater, to not be full of it.